Hey everybody, and welcome back to the One Piece Virgins Egghead Book Club podcast. I am your captain, Mumkey D. Jones, joined as always by my vice captain, Eggy V. Rodriguez.
Ahoy, me mateys. Ooh, welcome to the most explosive volume of your One Piece Virgin lives.
Of course, it is volume 44, finishing off the Enies Lobby arc, covering chapters 420, baby, to 430. Ooh. And Eggy, forget top of mind, we'll get to that. Here's my question. Is this a contender for the new best volume of One Piece?
I mean, recency bias, I know. The conclusion or the great Civil War, explosive device, etc., in Alabasta. I mean, I think it's been a high ranking, undefeated for so long, but I don't know, is it something about explosives? Maybe I just like things that blow up. I don't know. Just like my girlfriend, she's in the closet right now, and I'm not. Either way.
What? You're gonna blow her up in the closet? What's that metaphor?
The joke was that I own a blow-up doll that's in the closet.
Well, I have so much respect for you, I did not jump to that conclusion, Eggy. I just assumed you kidnapped a woman.
Oh, well, yeah, I do appreciate that you're giving me the credit there. You know, thank you very much.
But does this volume deserve credit? Because we have Luffy versus Lucci. We get to see what Gear 3 is. I mean, should I put this in the title? The Going Merry? Eggy?
You know what?
Why am I spoiling your top of minds?
Well, you are maybe a little bit. I will say, I know there's been a lot of emotion. I don't know if I shed a tear during the Mont Blanc cricket flashback. It was emotional. It definitely tugged at the heartstrings. Something in my man parts. I'm talking about the one that's in my heart, not the other one. Was getting tugged pretty good. But I don't think any water descended from my eyelids. But with the Going Merry, something about inanimate objects, saying like, they're sincere, emotional connections, nostalgia, something like that. Maybe it's because I like things more than I like human beings. It's called autism. It's my superpower. There might be something there, but this one had me weak in the knees. I might have fallen down if I wasn't laying in bed while I was reading it, to be honest.
I'm glad to hear that, Eggy, and I don't know if it's something that normies these days can relate to, this attachment to an inanimate object, even though this is technically very alive and speaking to them. But still, we live in a culture where people want to replace their phone every 2 years when the new model comes out. Companies make things shitty on purpose so that you have to replace them. So, maybe a modern day person reading this would be like, oh yeah, that ship's no good. Of course they need to, get rid of it and upgrade, huh? No. Now, that ship, we loved it, and it was alive, and we needed to apologize for all the dumb shit that Zoro and Sanji did to it. That's what kills me. That's what makes me tear up, is when Luffy's apologizing to the ship. Like, that's the hardest shit.
I mean, I think when my electric scooter eventually, breaks down from carrying me being I shouldn't say significantly over the weight limit, but my body weight is over the maximum amount that it could possibly handle. I drive up hills and I hear it going.
Hey, speaking of body weight, big announcement that I will probably regret announcing in a month when I gain the weight back, but I have officially lost enough weight to fit into my medium-sized shirts again, so I went digging through them, and I don't remember where or when I got a Sniper King shirt. It was probably a mail bag or maybe a gift from a woman. Either way, I don't remember, but wearing it today, finally, it's not just a plain black tee. But Eggy, we're 4 minutes and 20 seconds in, so to celebrate Chapter 420, I need to ask, what is your top of mind?
Well, gosh, there's just so... This really is a completely packed... it's such a dense volume. There's so many moving parts. I think I'm going to have to, just for the emotional purposes, I think I'm going to have to give it to the return/departure. I mean, I guess we could just say the burning of the Going Merry probably is going to be the peak of the emotional system here that I was working through. And it's funny that it is after all of the combat and all this stuff going on. Gear 3, Rob Lucci's power level being revealed is ridiculous. I gotta say,
his backstory is epic.
Yes, I have to say I actually got a little bit peeved about one thing. We'll get into it. But yeah, I think for my top of mind, I mean, just the whole everything. I mean, I couldn't believe that the Going Merry showed back up, and I guess, I mean, it's like Iceberg. He went and rebuilt it in the middle of the Aqua Laguna, or whatever the proper name for it is that I've forgotten after being so Enies Lobby minded here for the last few volumes. But you know, he's like out there putting it into working condition in the middle of this deadliest storm after he's just been shot, and he just like basically came back up out of his coma. It's craziness, and so very emotionally rich on multiple levels because it's necessary for their survival. It's like this great last hurrah, and then very much truly so because they end up sending the ship to its proper resting place via burning torches.
Now, when you were shocked at the moment when the Going Merry shows up to save them, I feel like this has got to be a make or break moment for a casual or just really anybody going through One Piece for the first time. Like, oh, their ship came to life and sailed here by itself to save them at the last second when all hope was lost. I could see how a lot of people might interpret this as Mickey Mouse writing is what some of the black One Piece YouTubers will say. Oh, this is Mickey, which is to say it's too stupid or cartoony or whimsical or something. But what's your impression? Did you think this all fit and it works for you?
I didn't mind it. I guess I probably do have a positive bias for One Piece at this point, so maybe like overly critiquing it doesn't necessarily come to mind. But we've had things like the Klabauta Man, you know, so there's already been this established presence of like, you know, spirits of sorts, and even to a lesser extent in the volume here, and something that I was kind of actually relieved to see, but the fact that Kagura or Kuroga, whatever, what's her name again? The Granny, I'd call her Granny, my favorite
Kokoro?
drinking Granny. Yeah. The fact that she was actually part fish woman, or was a fish woman all along here, mermaid rather.
Hey, what did I tell you when we met these characters, Eggy? Oh, it's interesting that... Eggy's dead. We lost him. But I said it's interesting that Ganbei, it's like a rabbit that is actually a cat, or, you know, one or the other. And I was like, yeah, I wonder... Oda's thought process here of introducing something that is actually something else. Now, do you pick up what I was putting down?
Yeah, I don't know, it cut off. I don't know if this is my webcam dying. I hope not, but it was awfully. Anyway, yeah, I might have blanked out a little bit of your statement there because I was like, what the fuck just happened to my existence?
Well, we can move on to my top of mind, Eggy, because I warned you that perhaps the most important cover story would begin in this arc, or in this volume. And then I was kind of shocked because I forgot that this happened, but there are actually 3 like cover stories, like I guess official, for the Skypiea people, like just to show us what they're up to these days. And that is not what I was counting when I said the next one's the most important. I forgot that those 3 pages even existed. But of course, what I'm actually talking about is Eneru landing on the moon. Eggy, what did you stand up and start screaming when you saw the shot? You know, what was your reaction?
I guess it kind of made sense with your inference that this was like such an applauded cover story, because I'm like, okay, I think it was the last volume I said, well, I don't think it's going to be Skypiea because we already had Gadatsu, so I'm thinking it's going to be something moving past that. Then we start getting in it, and the way that it captions the Skypiea scenes on these the chapter covers is it labels them as shot. It's not, and that's not how the other cover stories have been labeled at all. So I'm figuring, okay, so this, maybe it's not going to be Skypiea. Then yes, I'm getting Skypiea, which is not what I expected, but it's not labeled in the way that I'm used to. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe this is just how we have the Straw Hats. They kind of have their little scenic scenes sometimes where they are being shown and there's nothing in particular that's really consistent. Maybe it's just a little something before we get into the next. But yeah, when all of a sudden the Endless Farce, and it doesn't have this shot descriptor. It's actually describing it as the way that the cover stories usually are. I'm like, oh shit. So it's kind of like, okay, I didn't expect anything more to come out of Skypiea necessarily that would then weave into it, which makes sense because this is something completely different.
This is Space Pia now.
Yeah, another whole other universe, basically. I mean, yeah, it's still our universe, but we have Eneru landing on the moon. He doesn't have any problems, just
he
like
can
how
breathe in space. Real. What the hell?
I guess it's a good thing he's got these god powers, because I don't think anybody else would be able to be out there breathing the nothing. But,
does being lightning make it so you don't have to breathe, or are we to believe there's an atmosphere on the moon?
I wouldn't think that there is, but I could see, it's...
This shit is too Mickey for me! Oh, Mickey Mouse house party bullshit in my One Piece. No, so we have Eneru lands on it, and then the only other thing we see is he senses something in a crater. Eggy, we need predictions. What will Eneru find in the crater?
Well, something similar that we've had without like the business components. That's been something that we've had through with Hachi and Wapol and Gadatsu. They kind of come into this like sort of business sensibility when they're previously these villains. I'm thinking that for Eneru, I don't know if that's going to really make sense to have like business. That's not what's in my mind.
Start a small business in space.
I think he's going to come into contact with extraterrestrials, and maybe they're going to be like the aliens in the claw machine from Toy Story, just kind of like small and relatively harmless looking, and kind of like chill vibing, and he's on this power trip. I'm here to the Endless Farce. I'm the greatest. I'm God, etc., etc. Maybe he's gonna have a little bit of his edge softened by the kindness of the extraterrestrials that live. I'm guessing it's inside the moon. Maybe they're deciding in a crater when they saw the ship coming. But I'm gonna guess that there's probably some aspect of an internal civilization or an internal presence anyway. So I think if there was anything on the external, even if they went to hide, I think there'd be some trace of them. So I think we're gonna get now. This is. Everyone's reading this, it's haha silly. It's a haha silly, funny story. Oda, he knows what time it is. He knows there's something living inside the moon, and he's going to help express this truth that he knows to us through this cover story also.
Well, if aliens are revealed to be real in the One Piece universe, which it might as well be, because One Piece encapsulates literally every fictional idea that's ever been made gets thrown in at some point. So there probably will be aliens at some point, if not in the very next cover story. But my question is this going to go the route of Naruto and Dragon Ball, where the power scaling on on Earth, our character gets too strong for Earth and we need like aliens to come to power scale even higher? Because I kind of don't like that. It ruined Naruto when it's like, oh yeah, aliens actually gave us the ninja powers the whole time. Chakra comes from aliens, and now they're gonna keep coming to fight us in Boruto. Terrible. Dragon Ball did it right by making Goku himself the alien.
That's fair. Spoiling Naruto. Listen, I just read Volume 1 8 months ago. You're gonna spoil it for me. Oh my goodness.
I'm spoiling literally. Eggy, literally. The final villain of Naruto is introduced in the final volume. She just shows up in the last like 15 chapters and then gets beat. It's bullshit. Terrible, terrible writing with a horrible fan base to boot. But should we move on to a good fan base and read some comments?
Absolutely.
Fawaz says, I legit couldn't believe when Spandam called Robin a devil, curb stomped her, ripped his shirt off to reveal a giant white beard flag. Bravo, Goda. I think that's in reference to our comparison to American History X.
See this, pirates? This means not welcome!
Now, this is, this white beard flag, it means family, okay? Everybody who has this crest is part of my family. Filthy Dinger, according to Google AI, a black leopard or jaguar is a panther. Separately, cougars, mountain lions, and pumas are all the same thing. Also, jaguars are bigger and bulkier, while leopards are thinner and more agile, which works well with the Saul and Lucci connection. Now, I'm I've been thinking about this thing, having Saul and Lucci both kind of had these cat attributes to them. And in the Marines, and I don't know if we've seen too much of this yet, but it's not really much of a spoiler, there's a lot of characters that are kind of named after dogs, or like Garp will wear like a big dog head you might have seen in the live action. So if the government dogs are like the ones who are loyal, and then we have Jaguar Saul, Cat, who betrays the Marines, makes me think, maybe Lucci one day might follow in his footsteps if he's cat-coded instead of dog-coded. But that's just a theory. And I do have another theory.
A One Piece theory.
The chapter 423 is called, what, Mermaid Surprise or Mermaid Legend, something like that. And the cover art is not a cover story, it's just an illustration of Vivi. And obviously Vivi's not a mermaid, because you can only walk on land as a mermaid if you turn 30. But I think this is a hint of some sort of mermaid connection to Vivi, whether it was an ancestor was a mermaid or what. But there's a lot of mermaid connection to Vivi. I might have mentioned this even 15 volumes ago at some point. So I just wanted to throw that out there while it was in my brain. And then also there was another comment from Filthy Dinger. He said, I don't know why, but I really enjoyed Eggy reading off the fan tier list. And you did suppose that maybe we'll do an additional bonus episode going through the fan voted list and giving our thoughts on it. So maybe we should do that.
Well, we see that people enjoyed, just casual speculation and like, what were these Japanese children thinking 20 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
And
I think it's the only time that Nami was the lowest ranked crew member. I think she was like 7th place, but I don't remember. We'll have to go through it in a bonus episode. Speaking of which, we'll have to do the Skypiea character tier bonus episode soon, and maybe the Water 7 saga coming up soon. Who could say? And we have a new member of the crew, Eggy. And his name is John Veal. What should John Veal do on the measly crew?
The name would happen to be spelled Jhom.
Yeah, I think this guy comments on our stuff a lot, so I'm glad he finally found some money.
Well, I'm gonna, maybe he's sort of the ace to our Luffy. He's kind of like he's our brother that's been around, but we're making a reconnection here. So since the last time we saw Ace, he was going in espionage style into that ship and being this guy, I think he should be a spy for us. I think he should be a reconnaissance agent, just in the same way that the Galley La, I mean, he's probably just as good as them. He could, presume the position for 5 years to get the information he needs. So Mr. Jean Veal, absolutely, he's that's his rank. He's an intelligence agent.
John, you heard him. Presume the position. Get into place, buddy. We're ready for you. Thanks for joining the crew. Eggy, where do we go from here? Usually I say chronologically, but you know what? Why restrict ourselves in such a way? We can converse in any order we want, Eggy, and I want to know, where should we begin next? Or I guess continue.
We can talk about Gear 3. I think we finally, in this volume, we get a real good full explanation, because before I'm thinking, it's Chibi Shapeshift. No, that's the after effect. Mm-hmm. That's the cooldown, okay? Same way, there's RPG mechanics like berserking, where you can get you get the extra damage output, but then you have that extra damage intake for a certain period of time after.
Yeah, and Chopper couldn't even move this whole volume. He's paralyzed from his berserker mode.
Yeah, glad he's at least alive, but yeah, it was there was a lot of close call feelings in this. And I guess what I could say here, so Gear 3, we get this understanding that basically Luffy, he's able to move his blood throughout his body more quickly, which then generates his steam, and the reasoning
for that's
why
Gear
this
2.
is not. Well, yeah, for Gear 2, right. He's able to do this, and the reasoning why it doesn't cause him any significant immediate damage is it's supposed rather that this does shorten his life to some degree, because he's basically kind of just amping himself up and using up this life energy. Maybe it's something that could be restored with meat. The way that it's kind of written in the story is that this is just a permanent health detriment.
Yeah, I see
But
it as he's burning the candle at both ends, so like
Right,
his life will be shorter in the long run.
So that's how it's written. I would like to think maybe that it's actually just, not that, and that it's just a temporary, power. Like your reserves are all being expended.
No, it's
for
very
now,
real,
and
Eggy,
then
because it's even in the real world. Sometimes just to stay alive, you have to sacrifice the future. And like they say, every time you eat a hot dog, you lose like 12 minutes. And we've eaten many, many hot dogs. Sometimes you just need to survive and eat those dogs, no matter what the repercussions may be.
Right. At least in my fridge right now, I have turkey hot dogs because they were severely reduced in price at Hy-Vee.
Oh, I wonder why. I wonder why nobody's buying turkey dogs. Are they good? I've never had them. I like turkey.
For some reason, however they're put together, when you microwave them as I do, they like inflate. So it's different.
He's using Gear 3 bone balloon.
He's biting. I got the collagen.
So now we understand he's biting into his bone so he can inflate it like a balloon to have a literal giant fist. Yeah. And it blasts Lucci flying out of the building. It was awesome.
That might be, I mean, gosh, this is just such a stacked and dense volume, as I mentioned before. But yes, the Gear 3, that probably out of all the Gear 3 usage, that might be my favorite, just because of the way that it's depicted. A close second would be when Lucci and Luffy get to the Navy ship, and he does like the Gum battle axe with his Gear 3 leg, and it just like completely devastates the ship. Then Lucci also then furtherly devastates it, but it's just sort of like the way that it's drawn. The image is a little more chaotic, so it's like that's cool. I really it didn't take away from it for me at all, but I just think the way that the fists coming through the wall and like punching Lucci into the sea is depicted, to me that's just a cleaner and more impactful image, and that was really a top. There's so much good in this volume, but I mean it has to be at least top 5, if not top 3 for me, I think.
Well, what about this? When Luffy deflates, he flies directly back to where they were fighting. Is that Mickey? Oh, Mickey Mouse, House of Mouse? Bullshit.
There's probably more legitimacy to that happening than the Going Merry coming back to life. And I mean, Sanji's role here in this volume, he really just plays like the, if we want to talk about somebody that's here to just be like, fix the plot, man.
Yeah, it's interesting because they're trapped on the Bridge of Hesitation that has been decimated, and then Sanji disappears to go close the gates of justice. Can he fly? Did he swim? They're trapped on this bridge, right? Is it explained where he went to and how he knew where the gate opener was? I don't know, but he did it. That's Mr. Prince for you. He just does that, undercover shit to save the day. It's Mickey. We're saying it's Mickey.
It might be a little Mickey, maybe just a little bit. And the thing of it is too, like if we want to kind of say like do I want to call it a contrivance? Is that really the right word? I'm not really sure, but just kind of like everything just coincidentally happening in a perfect way. Also with Sanji closing the gates of justice, which triggers this whirlpool that is just perfect in the way that it helps misalign the shots from the Navy ships. But that's a satisfying, I'm really wanting the Navy to, get humbled a little bit, and that was a really positive thing in my opinion.
Well, and even having the miracle of the ship showing up, that chapter when they're escaping Enies Lobby on the ship, I think every crew member still has to use their special ability. Like Nami's doing the navigation. I misspoke earlier. Chopper does regain enough energy to become Yeti Chopper to steer the ship, whatever the fuck part of it. Zoro and Sanji have to use Luffy's lifeless body to propel back a cannonball. So everybody is still, working to their full abilities. It's not just like complete unfair bullshit, I guess.
Also, yeah, with the once the Buster Call's in motion after Luffy has had his combat with Rob Lucci, and he's basically the most damaged possibly ever since, other than maybe his first encounter with Crocodile, where he was saved by Nico Robin. He's in such poor condition, and the rest of the Straw Hats are pretty battle worn also, but they're having to fend off the 100 strong of the Navy's fighting brass, which also apparently these 100 members of the Navy's fighting brass all have devil fruits, if I read that correctly. So like
these 100, were they fighting a bunch of vice admirals with devil fruits? And I thought there was only like 10 of them, like one per battleship that came in. But I don't know where the 100 figure that you have is coming from. I might have missed that.
I couldn't recall exactly which chapter it was, but
yeah, one of the guys has some sort of rust fruit because one of Zoro's swords is destroyed, just rusted into pieces. So Homeboy 3 sword style is down to 2.
Yeah, it's definitely a razor edge moment with Luffy being incapacitated and like all of these quite powerful enemies just like jumping off the ships while they're ready to destroy the bridge. That's another emotional element to this, which thankfully gets resolved within the volume also. But after the escort ship is able to figure out, okay, these are the Marines, all right, we'll get these Marines out of here. And then leaving the Frankie family behind, just starts completely demolishing and blowing up the fucking Enies Lobby Island, just starting to get into dust. And Frankie overhearing on the transponder snail that, we all those pirates, we killed all of them. Yeah, the island's completely destroyed, and they're all dead. Yeah, don't worry about it.
And as the reader, we literally see it happen too. Like we see them get exploded, evidently to death. Would you have liked it better if it stayed that way and it was like this great tragedy of sacrifice to save Frankie? Or are you satisfied that Polly's ropes saved the day again?
Well, I'm not going to lie. To be honest, the angle they played it with Polly being a crucial element in their survival, I really did enjoy that. Like that was a satisfying way to spin that for me because that's his thing. We hadn't really seen it utilized in the way that it could have been, maybe in the their attempt to escape. The way that that Oda was able to fit it in, I think was good for me. I guess still at this point, it's not that I dislike it, or anything, but just the fact that people don't really seem to die, it's kind of like maybe sometimes the situation could be a little weightier, if it maybe a little more high stakes, if death was a possibility.
Well, can we figure this out? Because I think a lot of people did die. Because last volume we see the evacuating Marines trying to get onto the ship or the train, the sea train. But then here we see the Frankie family on the sea train, right? Don't they escape on the sea train at the end of this? I was confused about that. So these 10,000 Navy men on Enies Lobby, they have no way to escape, do they? Did they all die in the Buster Call?
Well, I thought it was wasn't it they got on, they had a Navy ship that was boarding the Navy men, and they're like, present your rank or whatever, and identify yourselves, identify your rank and your crew and your captain, whatever, and they let the Navy guys on.
So they didn't go on the train then?
I think that it was how we were understanding it maybe in the previous volume, but now it seemed like from what we saw in this volume, they boarded onto a Navy vessel, and then that was how they were going to escape. And then they basically cut off the Frankie family. All right, all that's left on the island is the pirates. Open fire.
Well, what about when Luffy and Lucci are fighting on the battleship, and then all the other battleships say, hey, let's just blow up our own ship with 1,000 of our own men on it, and the one guy complains and gets shot in the face for it? I mean, that's some brutal... real war thinking mindset there. Hopefully those guys died in their attempt to kill Luffy, who, again, Mickey'd that one by deflating out of the way.
Yeah, that was, I don't know if is that Admiral been identified as one of the ones that when Aokiji, when we had him in Long Island and they identified some of these admirals, do we have that particular one who was so vicious? he probably has been identified, but it didn't explicitly identify him in this volume that I saw, so I'm not entirely sure. But
yeah, if I saw him, I might
also
know his name. I don't think it was Manga, but maybe it was just because that came to mind.
we could also say, if we want to, or from my point of view, of that sometimes the weight of fatality isn't really fully applied. With Rob Lucci's backstory, they cut no corners. It's quite explicit.
Yeah, people only die in backstories, evidently.
Yeah, that he killed 500 soldiers.
He killed the hostages. Oh, there's a hostage situation. I'll take care of it. You don't have any hostages anymore. That's insane. And he was like, 13 years old, and he killed 500 hostage soldiers. Like, not even, little pedestrians. These are soldiers.
And then, taking, apparently being struck by enough cannonballs that it, covered his body in cannonball scars. I don't know how you would have that happen. I mean, I guess just the strength of your body, maybe his iron body ability was already fermenting at this young age. Obviously, he sustained significant damage, but I'm thinking if you get hit by, 10 cannonballs to your body, I think I would probably just be a pile of goo. So, maybe...
You can't use iron body, though. Maybe he was training from a young age. And
this might have been stainless steel body at this point.
Do I remember this right? Were his cannon scars on the back in the shape of the world government flag?
That didn't stick out to me. They were circular and arranged.
It's one in the middle and then one on each side, I think. I think that's the idea. And as a mercenary who just loves to kill and loves to draw blood, and the government gives him permission to do that, I think it's kind of neat that he's marked by violence in the symbol of what they represent.
Yeah, it's pulled the image back up here. So it is, I think the world government flag is sort of slightly a different alignment, but yeah, his scars are more in the shape of a cross, I guess. It's 5 cannonball markings, 3 vertically and then 3 horizontally, with that one sharing both the vertical and horizontal axis. So
maybe only vaguely similar.
Yeah, I would say that makes sense.
Now I do want to go. Go ahead.
This was something that's in the midst of the Lucci and Luffy fight. I found to be, if I have a Mickey moment, this is more like my Daffy Duck moment or something. It's kind of.
Does that make it good or bad?
So Rob Lucci, in response to Luffy's power up, well, he's got his own thing. He's got the 6 powers. They all combine into one ultimate attack, and Luffy takes this attack, and he is eyes whited out, blood spraying out of his mouth.
He says it's worse than an impact dial on Skypiea.
Yeah. So
not a reject dial.
Right. So the way that this is shown and that it's built up to and it's explained, this is the ultimate attack. It's over with. You know what? If you can come back from this, it's gonna be wow, he survived. Oh, I'm putting together how this is going to come together in my mind, as it's happening, and I'm kind of the bits and pieces are of speculation of where this is going are floating and swirling around in my head. Well, then not too much later on, without all the build-up, Lucci just does it again. He's just ultimate 6. I probably should have written down the specific.
It's 6 king blast or something.
Oh, yeah, 6 king finger blast or something.
Yeah. Gonna finger
but
blast.
But just the fact that it happens again, and I think it's after Luffy's getting motivated by Usopp after he kind of leaps over to kind of get him going or whatever. So it's sort of all right, this is momentum. Luffy, you can do this.
Usopp, you came. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's just
the last time they saw each other, they were beating the fuck out of each other, Eggy. And now, in his lowest moment, who comes to cheer him on and save the day? Fucking Usopp. Oh my god. That's another fantastic scene.
And I think maybe with just where the direction, it was kind of the abruptness or something. I'm not sure if I know the exact word to put to it, but yeah, it's sort of you have this idea that everything's all oh, we're building back, okay. And then Lucci's just ultimate attack. And Luffy just immediately eyes widened and like spewing blood all again. I'm like,
so what's Daffy about this? If we're changing it from Mickey to Daffy now, is this a positive or a negative?
Well, it's like if we're talking Mickey, okay, Luffy, he deflates and lands back in the exact same spot. The merry-go, oh, it's just right there. Look down, oh, we're gonna, oh, it's perfect, and oh, and Sanji flipped the switch.
To the sea!
This is more like, yeah, like, this maybe was building up to another one of those moments here with Lucci being like, or Luffy being reinvigorated by Usopp, and oh, we had all of this conflict, and now the resolution is here, and here we go. Yeah. Not that it didn't build up to that eventually, but just like, where we are in that particular moment, like, you know, like the levels are building, and then Lucci, ultimate attack that I had to, you know, like talk about for 4 panels last time.
He just keeps spamming it. You know, I think it makes the situation even more dire, and it explains why even after winning, Luffy is so completely exhausted that he cannot move and needs to be pushed into the ocean. And back to
I would say it definitely all works out by the conclusion of everything, but just in the moment of how it's going down, I'm just like dropping my hands down, like, come on.
Yeah. I think this might be my new top Usopp moment, even above shooting the keys last time or whenever that happened. Yeah, I guess it was last time. Because what do we know about Usopp? He's the coward. He's always lying, always running away from fights. Always. And here we have the scariest monster we've ever seen, Rob Lucci, the Leopard Man. And Usopp is saying, yeah, fight me, you pussy! Like, he literally calls him a pussycat, but, you know, he's calling him a pussy. I'll take you on! He's doing this because he knows Luffy's main motivation is protecting his friends, so... like, if this doesn't motivate Luffy to move, literally nothing will. I'm gonna make this guy come and kill all of us if you don't move, Luffy. Usopp's bravery to yell that shit to Lucci. That's why I got this shirt on right now.
That's right, developments on developments, and it's a beautiful thing. It, you know, also things that develop are lots of lesions in the face and skull of Spandam as he gets funk freed, you know, literally grab. I mean, listen, funk freed, you know, I want to love him. You know, it's no love lost here, but, you know, he kind of gets handled by Frankie, he gets trunk slammed, he gets the whole, like some Johnny Bravo cartoon, like big muscle.
I don't think we should hold it against him, because if anything, you know, Frankie, he practiced by trying to stop the sea train, so of course he could stop a raging elephant, and then he slams him down onto Spandam. So if we hate Spandam, which I think we do, the fact that Funkfried crushes him basically to death, hey, that's a point for Funkfried in my mind. And when like Frankie's holding him, like Funkfried is sweating, like the elephant sword is anxious about it. So I thought that was cute. And what do you think of right when Robin is freed? She just slaps the shit out of Spandam. Oh, so satisfying after all the abuse she went through.
Yeah, it gets like a chiropractic, like crick, like back bent over moment. I don't think maybe that's not the exact same moment as that, but
hey, it all happened, and Frankie and Robin specifically have so much against this one guy, and he's caused them so much suffering. I'm glad Oda took the time to have them both beat the shit out of him.
It was very satisfying, absolutely, to see his contused, like swollen face. You know, it was actually interesting because at first when they're giving the Rob Lucci backstory and they're playing into this like scar thing, I'm like, oh wait, like Spandam's not that strong, but he does sort of like obscure himself. So is there something here with Spandam? Like he suffered some damage and he's got some kind of secret power that thankfully was not the case. But you know, at first, before they revealed Rob Lucci, because I'm observing those first panels, that was the first thing that came to mind for me. It was like, okay, well, I know who I've seen who would be a likely person to have suffered some kind of great damage years ago that now...
Wasn't Spandam's injury caused by Frankie?
Yeah, but, you know, there could have been... Just, you know, without thinking about it too much, just like as I'm taking it panel by panel, these are just the things that kind of popped into my mind. But yeah,
I like
do
that
believe
when
you are
the
correct
Buster
there.
Call is avoiding blowing up Robin, but Spandam thinks that it's protecting him. Like he's so just
Right.
self-centered and stupid. Lucci, of course, he floods the underground passage intentionally to drown all the Straw Hats and eliminate their chances of saving or escaping. And that's when we, everybody's drowning, everybody's down there, and then we get the Kokoro mermaid moment. Is this another? I feel like this volume has a lot of things that you just have to either accept and like, or be like, what the fuck? And Kokoro turning into a mermaid is up there with the Mary showing up for me. Was this, shocking, game-breaking for you?
Kind of like I alluded to at the beginning of the episode today. Was it shocking? I would say I certainly would have never expected. Like, if it had never happened, I would have never anticipated that it would happen. But once again, she's a different looking kind of woman. She's kind of unique and quirky. So I think that she had the mermaid abilities. To me, it's kind of like, hey, you know what? I accept that, and I'm perfectly happy with that. I don't know. Is there some kind of connection here that fish men and women like to get a little heavy on the sauce? I mean, listen, I like to swim too. I like to drink. Maybe there's something there that I'll put together eventually, but
I think Kokoro's alcoholism was because of what happened to Tom, probably. And we saw Kami the mermaid in those cover stories, and other than getting like eaten by things, I don't know if she she was in shape. She had some good stuff going on.
That's true. Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, I think I feel better about her being a mermaid versus the opposite. I think that just sits better with me. So
I think it creates a lot of good comedy of everybody being disgusted that it's a mermaid is not beautiful, and she's like this ugly old fat hag. And I don't want to spoil future events, but I will say, for those who know, there's a joke probably like 60 chapters from now where Zoro like erases his memory of meeting her because she was so disgusting, and it's one of the funniest fucking sight gags ever because Chopper can see his thought bubble. It's so funny, but we'll get to that in several volumes. Sorry to spoil a good joke. Where do you want to go next, Eggy?
Well, I guess I feel like we've covered quite an awful lot of what transpires in this volume, because I mean, it is essentially just freeing Nico Robin, combat between Luffy and Lucci, the Buster Call in effect, and then surviving and escaping. I feel like.
Well, there's a lot of details I want to dive into, so I'm just going to go through my notes here. And
Sure.
I like that throughout the series, we're constantly getting disrespect towards Luffy as a captain. Vivi had to teach him some lessons and tell him he's a shitty captain. People always assume Zoro is the captain. We've seen that many times, even in Enies Lobby. Like when they're in the courthouse, they say, oh, that guy must be the captain. He's so strong. Here, I think for the first time ever, we get an acknowledgement of Luffy's leadership, and it comes from fucking Rob Lucci. When Luffy, he's like, oh, I'm not taking my eyes off of you because you'll kill my whole crew if I don't stop you right now. And Lucci says, you're worthy of being captain. I thought that was so incredible that the only character to say that to Luffy is his greatest boss fight so far.
Yeah, if there's it's kind of like also, I think the acknowledgement, as you mentioned, is his reputation, his power level being so much more significant, and the fact that Luffy could pull out these things like Gear 3 that's blowing up this building that they're on with the power of this punch. It's devastating the Navy warships when they're fighting on the warship, and still take these punches and roll with it up until the most ultimate ability that he could possibly muster. The fact that it gets the commendation coming from somebody of that strength, I think really just adds a whole other level of credibility to it, even though in our eyes we already know what time it is. We already know Luffy's great. We're giving him A+, S tier, everything every single time. But his goofy antics outside of combat and outside of these dire situations. You know what?
Well, even in combat too. I love when he's chibi Luffy's all tiny and Lucci's got him held up against the wall. And even then, Luffy's defiant and gives out just the most pathetic little tiny punch. And Lucci is so pissed that he like slams him through the wall for it. But tiny Luffy, completely powerless, still punching him in the face. Oh my god. That's Luffy. That's my right. Luffy.
Never give up. Woo.
When they're fighting each other on the Navy ship, is this the only time we see full leopard mode? He turned into a full leopard, like with the, dots or whatever and everything. He wasn't even half human. Is that the only time we see him like that? When he bites Luffy on the shoulder, I think.
Yes, I believe so. I wonder if, we know what we know about zone type fruits from what we've seen from Chopper so far. And obviously, Kaku had his, and we've seen Lucci transform before. But we know that Chopper, he's got variations of his forms that he's got kind of like he doesn't have a full humanoid form like Lucci does, but this transformation between full beast and the different stages, kind of like an Animorphs cover, I guess maybe is this indicating then, which wouldn't have been my thought previously, but is it perhaps the more animalistic that his form becomes, that's a greater power exertion in the same way that Luffy has his Gear 2 and 3? Because possibly, but I also feel like he was doing more damage in his regular like initial transformation form that we had saw and been more familiar with up to this point.
Yeah, he must have just been really pissed and wanted to bite him. Like, such an animalistic move compared to these very humanistic skills that he trained up on with the 6 powers. In the SBS, we find out that Frankie is 34 years old, Eggy. Did you have an inkling that you and Frankie were about the same age? How old are you, 34? 33?
I'll be 34 in 6 months. So as of right
now,
you're
Frankie age, dude.
That's right.
Which Battle Frankie number are you?
Well, I'm the one that goes like this.
And maybe you'll get nipple lights. But spoiler alert. I thought it was interesting that Frankie, every ship he built was the new Battle Frankie, and he numbers them. And now his cyborg body itself is the Battle Frankie 36, which is explained in this SBS. And then that he's also 34 years old. And I was thinking, well, hypothetically, if time passed in the story and Frankie aged 2 years, would he be 36 years old and the Battle Frankie 36? Was that intentional? But then I looked it up, and it turns out by then he's up to 37, so it did not match. But I thought that was very intriguing. Like, why are these numbers so close? What does it mean? And he made sure they did not match up for 1 second.
I think sometimes, we have, like, for instance, I have to get new tags on my car every year. In some years, I just, push it off a couple months and hope I don't get pulled over because I don't feel like doing it right away. Or maybe it's something like that with the Battle Frankies. Like, maybe he's kind of just putting off a couple months before his new iteration, or maybe sometimes the new iteration has to come a couple months early. So I just double checked this because it was something I mentioned before about the 100. So this is the exact quote here. This is chapter 426. So from the Navy, they say they have the battleships pulled up. Junior officers and enlisted men stay at your posts. Only captains and lieutenants will engage the enemy. Our elite 200 will crush them in no time. The Navy's fighting brass. Each of these is the same rank as Smoker.
Okay. So I must have figured they were just talking about like the vice admirals, but ultimately it didn't really matter. We get in this great battle on the bridge where they're being surrounded by Navy. We even get a shot of Usopp scratching a chalkboard, and it's actually being effective against this high-level Navy man. So more Mickey, and I know we keep saying these as complaints, but I actually enjoy all of the Mickey in this entire volume. So. But
everything was as like lay scientifically fact checked as my brain defaults to. I think the story would certainly suffer for it. I also
speaking
like
of
this
which,
main
I should
guy.
bring up now that this is not the only manga I read this week, Eggy. I've actually been very much reading a lot of books, one of which is the Hunter x Hunter manga, also known as Hunter x Hunter if you speak X. And in the last week, I read 80 fucking chapters of this shit, Eggy. 80. And I want to talk about it very briefly here. Because the reason why it was so easy to fly through it to start with is the opening 50 chapters. Like, every page is like 3 panels, and there's maybe 1 dialogue per page. Like, you could read a chapter of Hunter x Hunter in like maybe 4 minutes early on. But once you get past chapter 50, the author loses his fucking mind and forgets the format of what he's writing, and there will be entire pages with no illustrations, just text. Just text. He's turned his manga into a normal book because he forgot how to tell his story, like, subtly or visually, and they get so in-depth with, like, the fighting mechanics that the characters are literally writing equations of how much power and damage their abilities will do. Like, I cannot think of more opposite of what a shonen should be than the characters doing math to figure out how strong their punch will be. Like, just show them doing the fight. Why did I read an entire volume of them learning how to use the internet? What has happened? Suffice to say, every single arc in Hunter x Hunter, if I was going to put it on our tier list of arcs here, as we're going to do for Enies Lobby later today, every single one is B tier. Like, Hunter x Hunter, hopefully it gets better. I'm only halfway through Your Canoe City. Hopefully that it elevates to an A, but not so far. One Piece reigns supreme again. And if Oda ever has no illustration on a page and just text, I will shoot myself with a gun on live stream. That's how confident I am that he knows what he's fucking doing. But I will continue reading Hunter x Hunter, even though I am getting sick of it very quickly.
And you know what? What goes up must come down. I also want to, I guess, clarify about my disdain about Rob Lucci's attack that I mentioned earlier. I myself am going to exhibit some character development here because so he has the build up on the first use. He actually uses it 2 more times of that final use, even though it depicts Luffy in this very devastated manner, which I just was frustrating to me, that it does directly precede his Gatling attack that actually then does defeat Rob Lucci. So maybe it was good that we have these two, the repeated devastated impact of it, and expressed maybe with that first buildup of how ultimate it was, because then that also we can contrast how over it Luffy is, even if he's taking the significant damage to where his eyes are rolling back and spraying blood everywhere. He's just so locked in for that final bit of combat that he can handle business all the same, even though that it then kind of paralyzes him and he's only good as a rubber cannonball rebounding item thereon. But you know what? He's doing his thing and he's still here with us, and this isn't the afterlife. That's right.
That's right. I remember I was disappointed in the conclusion to the Lucci fight when I first was watching the anime, because I felt like Luffy's finishing move just being Jet Gatling, but now it's like, you know, Gear 2 version of an attack we've seen a million times. I mean, I was hoping for something a little more creative, like just Gear 3, the giant fist. Like, that's perfect. You know, I'm not saying it needs to be, or it should have been different, but just as a finishing move, I was disappointed that it was not necessarily unique to Luffy's fighting.
I agree. Yeah, that, or if he had, if they had gone out to the ship and he had like dropped the Gear 3 Gum Battle Axe and like it had like knocked Lucci like through the like layers of the ship and like down to the bottom,
like Arlong Park style.
Yeah, that would have been pretty badass. I can't, you know, overall, I'm not critical of how things ended up. Like, it all worked out enough. But yeah, I think that it seemed a little run of the mill. I definitely
Yeah.
the way that it's drawn in the panels definitely has a lot of emotion and impact to it, but just the style of the attack was a little
Yeah, I want like
overused.
a crocodile ending where he pulls out some crazy shit we've never seen anything like before to defeat him, but I guess ultimately even Gum Gum Storm was just punching him a lot too, but at least he blew himself up all twisty and blew up into the air and stuff. But so whatever, yeah, maybe Luffy will find cooler finishing moves than just punching a lot in the future. Maybe not, but I doubt we'll complain too much.
What I do know is what's that? Burning Blood, is that the PS4 One Piece fighting game, which I think has characters I couldn't understand before that were like Gear 3 Luffy. So maybe if I were to play that game again, now that I have Gear power in the lexicon, maybe he's got something in there.
Actually, the playable character in that game is Gear 4 Luffy, which is major spoilers, so actually we should not let you do that. Would you care to guess how many numbers high the gears will go?
I guess I would suppose that it would go up to 9 eventually. Like the kind of because like what do we have like in Dragon Ball Z for instance, we have like Super Saiyan 1, 2, 3, and then it goes into like Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan fucking fuse.
It's insane and stupid, and like there's no way to actually, if just hearing the titles of them does not tell you where they would rank compared to the other ones. So it's all nonsense to me.
But I could see, I mean, just if that sort of thing is established in the culture, I could also see that maybe eventually is like Gear A+ or Gear S+,
Gear
or some
Death.
shit like that.
Some edgelords were hoping for Gear Death, where Luffy becomes like an emo. No good.
I'm not saying I would expect that specifically, but just moving away from the number classification, as much as I wouldn't like that, either go with the number classification to its conclusion, like 9 or maybe even 10, wherever we're at, that, or just maybe have a different kind of ability that's beyond gear. Maybe like you go Gear 5 or whatever, Gear 3, whatever, and then you activate something else. I don't know, but yeah, I probably wouldn't care for it to have like Gear God or Gear Ultra or some shit like that.
And did you know in the Japanese he's saying Gear 5 or Gear 2 or whatever, like he's saying it in English, which I think is interesting. What does gear mean to Luffy? Like, has he heard this word before, or did he just come up with it? I don't know.
What I thought of with it is like shifting gears in the vehicle, like you have first gear and second gear, and you're able to reach a higher top speed or by shifting gears. So that's how I read it.
Is he like a mechanic? Has he been on a bike before? How does he know this? Interesting. Another prediction. How many chapters until we find out what the next gear might be?
Let's see, about 10 chapters of volume. Well, we got from 2 to 3 pretty fast.
Mm-hmm. Basically, in the same volume, he was about to use 3 on Bluno.
But I would say probably we're going to want to be fully separated from Water 7 and getting a decent amount into the next. I just don't know if we're having like another Long Island sort of transitionary portion, as I've mentioned. I think I call it like that sometimes. I don't know if I suppose that we're going to do that, which I think just historically speaking, it's likely we're not going to go directly into something major again. Let's say maybe 2 more volumes of this. I'm just speculating here. Then maybe like 4 volumes of filler, well, not filler, but like transitionary. So that'd be 6 volumes. And then we might need maybe 3 volumes into the next arc. So 9 to 10 volumes, I would think. That would be my estimation. Before
it's about 100 chapters from now.
Because he might not even need to like be in such a dire, and then maybe this is how it is going to be. Maybe he needs to be in a super dire situation to, expend that much power to get to the next level. But I would like to think that we're going to have, do 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 do. You're out and see, wow, Luffy, what was that thing you did? Oh, that's my gear too. And he starts steaming.
You
whatever.
think that the crewmates would sit around actually talking to each other about the things they've been through, and that we would get to see that as readers? Oh my god, wouldn't that be something?
Well, just,
I'd like
Luffy,
it if it happened. If they were just hanging out and showing off their powers to each other, like in Avengers Age of Ultron, that'd be pretty cool.
I mean, just with how, well, I guess another way I could see it also is, besides from the typical kind of cool down period we've had between major arcs before, we now have the fact that the Straw Hats are against the entire world government now, so they might need to be on a consistently high level of alert. And if they are having to be much more cautious and maybe more likely to find themselves in combative circumstances, maybe that would present an opportunity for maybe them to get ambushed by some overwhelming power to where he would need to just pull out that next gear right away and be like, all right, well, I didn't know if I'd have to use this so fast right away, but I guess we need to get through here, so here we go.
And I probably shouldn't ask you what you think it is, because you might have been slightly spoiled just by that video game, so maybe,
to be fair, I don't remember, so.
Yeah, that is very fair. So what else from this volume before we put Enies Lobby on our tier list of arcs? Anything else about the Mary? Nah, I think we covered that. Do you remember maybe 20 episodes ago I was telling you all the times in One Piece that make me cry, and I said chapter 430?
To be honest, I don't remember that now. but I feel you though, because as I mentioned earlier, I think possibly definitely the first time in a while that I was really plucking the heartstrings for me. And
first time since Chow Chow and his dog food. It's been since volume 2 that One Piece made Eggy a little bit sad. Wow, 44 volumes in, Eggy. We're almost a whole year into this podcast.
Coming up, yeah. Just like less than 2 months now at this point. Perhaps.
And in volume 40, when we had Heartsy as a guest, we did say, oh, maybe every 5 volumes we'll get a guest. Well, 45 is next. Should we even bother? Like, what, we're gonna get Heartsy again? He's gonna spoil shit. He's already in fucking Dressrosa.
Oh. Well, I mean, if we could have him take an oath of non-spoilage, I wouldn't mind having him back. Because, who else do we have that's...
Yeah, I mean, E-Rich, but I think he only watches the anime. Fucking dork. I'll invite Nux Taku from the old One Piece Virgin podcast. I'm sure he'll want to come on this show with 300 viewers.
Hey, you know what? I mean, when you're doing it for the love of the game, it's a property you really enjoy and you have a passion for it, okay? You should just want to do it. Even if we weren't even recording, you should want to come and talk about what he loves.
That's right. Well, I don't know if any of those guys actually love One Piece. It seems pretty obvious from their current day show that they just do it for the clout and the money. They don't actually care. Maybe we won't have a guest. And we should warn the good people who pay for this show that we usually record these and upload these on Wednesdays, but we're going to be in Florida this coming Wednesday hanging out with Rusty, so that episode's going to be delayed to the Friday, I believe. So stay tuned for that, 2 days late. Eggy, should we put Enies Lobby on our official tier list of arcs? And I'll let you go first.
Well, this arc, I mean, it just really had it all for me. It had, insurrection against an unjust government. We all love it. We're all doing it right now in major cities across the country. It's one of my favorite things to do. It had a lot of action. It had Luffy in his introducing gear. It had the merry-go coming back and that whole emotional part there. It had Usopp utilizing his connection to Little Garden in order to help bring the Frankie family in and get rid of the Marines. It had CP9. It had incredible battles. It had the Buster Call. It had Nico Robin's backstory. I mean, And that's probably just half of what it is. I'm probably not. This is just what's coming to mind right off the bat.
And for the first time since Alabasta, every Straw Hat, I think, gets pretty much a 1v1 fight. And do these fights compare favorably to the other fights that they've had?
I think so. I mean, I felt like they did personally, at least to a degree, even if they weren't all like, jaw dropping. OMG, this is the most crazy fight ever. I think that they would at least compare to Baroque Works and slightly having an edge over the Baroque Works fights, generally speaking, I think.
I think they're probably all better.
I would agree. And, we get the introduction of things like the Gates of Justice, of Impel Down. We get more...
Robin saying, I want to live. Frankie burning the blueprints because he's betting on the Straw Hats. The Straw Hats standing on the castle. Big showdown with CP9 up on the Tower of Law. Some of the most iconic visuals ever. Just the island of Enies Lobby itself, I am still obsessed with. And actually, I'm going to use this opportunity, now that we've finished the arc, to let's do a little bit of theory crafting on how Enies Lobby exists like this. Because again, it's a mostly floating island over a bottomless pit that is just the ocean falling into a waterfall of a pit. And the island basically floating above it is circular and round, except for, just a little part connecting it to the land. And I'm thinking, how did this come to be? It evokes Eneru. Again, Eneru shows up, cover story during Enies Lobby. Coincidence? I think not. Because it reminds you of his attacks where, giant lightning blast that leaves a crater wherever it blasts. And I'm thinking, if it's been like this for 800 years, what if 800 years ago, Enies Lobby wasn't always owned by the government? Maybe the good people had it, and some bad guys wanted to use their giant sky attack to destroy it, right?
Enies Lobby, Eneru.
I don't know if he's 800 years old, but my point is, let's say the world government wanted to destroy Enies Lobby, whoever owned it back in the day, and they're doing some sort of Eneru sky destruction attack. What if the thing that saved that round part of island was somebody with the gum fruit 800 years ago who used a giant gum balloon to shield the island from the blast, and that's why it only affected all around the circle. And then maybe the user, died in the process, I would imagine, but that's a theory I've had for a while of just like how and why this is the way it is. And I hope we get to see a flashback someday. Hopefully it gets explained. I have to imagine everything will be, but that's my theory. And so is the VV's related to mermaids theory, god damn it. Even though I probably stole that one from Dawn Dusk, best YouTube One Piece channel of all time. What about you, Eggy? Any theories about how Enies Lobby is the way it is?
Well, here's the thing for me. So, we know where it leads to. Gates of Justice, Nipple Down, and all that. I could see it perhaps, maybe, that circular portion, it might have had a prisoner brought to it, and maybe they had some kind of, like, great structure where now it has this infinite emptiness. This maybe could have been a physical structure or an energy structure or something like that might have been placed in that empty space at some point to help contain what was within the circle at that time. And then maybe that was then maybe they built off to go build or to go construct Impel Down, the Gates of Justice and all that, and then contain something within that circle, and then led it from the circle into that, and then kind of decided at that point that this was like the inescapable prison for the worst offenders. And so maybe there was something like that, not necessarily that it was being protected, but that maybe it was a security measure that might have been placed around there. Maybe even it could even be put that maybe there was an attack that was done there in order to, that could have been part of the security measure as well. But I just kind of feel like I don't see it as well. If I'm trying to think of a different theory, because I think your theory is very plausible. Maybe not that it was defended, but that it was intentionally formed, or that there was something done to it with the to bring it to those ends of being a high security place to handle some prisoners, or maybe one particularly bad prisoner at some point, all to do with the construction there as well of the Impel Down and the Gates of Justice and the Bridge of Hesitation and everything there. So I could see it like that. I don't know how they might have done it. This is kind of like how they build the pyramids kind of deal, kind of just speculation. But
Well, hey, devil fruits, you can do all kinds of crazy shit with those. Who needs the technology?
That's right.
Is there a clue in the name? Have we ever talked about what the fuck does Enies Lobby mean? Enies is not a word, and Enies Lobby, you would expect like an apostrophe S, like this is the lobby owned by Eni. But no, it's just Enies Lobby. Does the word Enies look like any English words to you?
I think about like enemies. Can I do a quick research of my Roman or whatever?
Well, so my question is, if you add the letter D, because this is Mumkey D Luffy, or what does the D mean? You add the word D to Enies, it makes the word denies, right? That's the only word I can think of that it could form. Are they denying? This is the lobby where we deny the pirates freedom by sending them to Impel Down. Is that the idea?
That could be, but if I wanted to go off the me, the Oxford Dictionary defines an enemy as a hostile nation or its armed forces, especially in a time of war. So I think that might have something like the lobby where we bring our enemy. Maybe it used to be Enemies Lobby, and maybe I don't know. Maybe they knocked.
And again, I'm not completely sure, but I think in the Japanese they say Enies Lobby in English, or at least the word lobby is at least English. So maybe it is. Maybe Oda just he doesn't know English that good. He's like, Enies. That kind of sounds like enemies or whatever. Enemies.
Could be like a natural thing like the Bermuda Triangle or whatever. And
we'll get to that next arc.
When there was the 800-year ago event that happened, they're like, oh hey, we got this place over here. This might be the natural structure that would be perfect for us to process our enemies in this lobby here, and then we give them the life sentence and we go walk them to Impel Down. I mean, Impel, I don't know what Impel means, but I mean it's down at the bottom of the sea, so I don't know. There might be something here that
what he's gonna
impale down. You're stuck down to the bottom of the ocean.
Well, as long as it's not Pell flying off with a bomb and then surviving, I'll be okay with it. Okay, so we are fascinated by the mysteries of Enies Lobby. Another reason why it might be a higher tier arc, but Eggy, we need to put it on the list. Do you have the one I sent you in front of you for your comparison, or should I read off some of these placements that you had? Because right now for S tier, you have Skypiea number 1, Alabasta right behind it, and then it goes to A tier, Water 7 from there.
And that was where I had it in front of Barati.
Correct. You have the Baratier as the 4th best arc currently.
I really did enjoy it.
Yeah, to be fair, I think I have it 6th, so it's pretty high up there for me too.
What I gotta say. So I have Alabasta under Skypiea, right? That's how I'm reading this?
Correct.
I think I'm going to place this still under Skypiea, but I think this one, I am going to make the decision to put this over Alabasta. My reasoning for that is the gravity of Alabasta, the emotional significance in the Civil War and everything that was going on there, the Baroque works and their espionage is very great. But with that angle, the fact that essentially the Straw Hats have now done something that is impactful towards the entire world government, boom, I'm going to put that more. The emotional aspects of it, I think that the emotional aspects were a little stronger in Enies Lobby for me personally than Alabastia. I would say that the combat, there was better combat. I think that we get more Luffy character power level development really for every character, but Luffy with his gear being implemented, we're going to put that in there as a positive towards it. I think just overall, Skypiea, it's still so fantastical and so magical, and it has these different things that this couldn't really outdo for me yet. It's just kind of got that inherent quality that's hard to touch. But I think for what comparisons I would draw between this and Alabastia, I think that Enies Lobby comes further, stronger, more impactful for me. So for those reasons, I'm going to put it under Skypiea.
We still get a lot of comments of people who are upset that Water 7 and Enies Lobby are not the same arc. And I feel you. I feel you, people. Because it would undeniably be the number one arc if they were together. 100 chapters of pure Kino, ranging from Usopp versus Luffy all the way to where we are now. But even with that being said, Eggy, I'm still giving Enies Lobby the number one spot. And you know why? I love Skypiea, but it has a lot of shit in there that I don't like. I hate Satori and his stupid brothers, and there's plenty of them in there. There's the two middle volumes of Skypiea. They're not bad, but they're a little bit, not super interesting as much as they could be. Really, most of the weight is carried in like the final two volumes for me. But Enies Lobby, I don't know if there's even a negative element to the arc. And if anything, it made me double down on my dedication to One Piece, because this is the arc where it's revealed that the genre of the story we've been reading was a lie the entire time. And it's not just like goofy pirate adventure. We're in a dystopian, like, authoritative government world. And when Luffy is declaring war on the government, and he's like screaming in their face as he burns their flag, I mean, that's next level stuff. That changes what the story is really fundamentally about. It introduces this ancient, centuries old mystery of history that needs to be revealed. And then all of the iconic moments, all the best fights. And then, hey, Skypiea made me cry with the Nolan flashback, but fucking, I don't need a flashback in this one to cry. The shit that's happening right here, right now, is some of the saddest and most devastating shit, regardless of when it happened in the story. So, hey, it's basically a no-brainer for me. Enies Lobby number one, and if it was connected to Water 7, I mean, even higher. I have Water 7 in third place now, behind Skypiea. So, what are your thoughts, Eggy?
I definitely see where you're coming from with why you would feel that Skypiea is beneath this, and I would definitely also agree with your take that if they were the same Water 7 and Enies Lobby together, it would be a absolutely stacked powerhouse. But when you mention things like the dystopian notion of the government, that's kind of something that it's good that we're getting the expansion here, and we're getting this confirmation of that. I guess that's kind of just where my mind trends towards normally, and I think maybe there was explanations prior to this that kind of showed that they weren't, with like their cooperation with the warlords, things like that. And then when you're talking about the history, though, it's another thing with Skypiea and the we get introduced to the poneglyph in Alabastia prior to that, but the kind of the greater understanding of the poneglyphs and the history that's on Skypiea, and then it's kind of like our preview, maybe, or like our first glimpse of the ancient history that we're not being told about, which gets expanded upon more here as well, especially with the Nico Robin flashback. But And Skypiea, it's gonna get pushed down one of these days for me. Maybe I've gotta, maybe I'm just a Skypiea stan, but I think that all of your points in favor of the volume, I completely agree with. I couldn't disagree with any of it. I think that it all is quite good, quite on point.
And even in terms of the environment, you might think Skypiea, well, that's what a fantastical environment. But if you think about it, is it not 90% just a jungle? Like, they're mostly just in the upper yard, right? Like, yeah, I've seen them in the woods before. Like, Enies Lobby, the geography and location is so intriguing to me that I'm almost obsessed with it.
I mean, that's fair, but this is a island in the sky that's separated from everybody else for hundreds of years.
I know. I just think it's disappointing that story mostly turned into a jungle adventure. Like, can we spend more time like on Angel Street?
Yeah, but it's just it's kind of like how right now in our world, if whatever portion of the rainforest that's left that hasn't been turned into toilet paper at this point, there's like species out there that we've never seen. We have our own like upper yard out there right now, full of tribes that haven't seen or talked to anybody for like 5,000 years. They're wandering around out there right now.
Sunnyside is giving them like hot tamales and candy to try.
Giving them Quick Star crispy bars.
Yeah. Should we start doing that? Go find isolated tribes and give them candy?
Well, it's looking like it's going to be another profitable gambling week, so maybe it's time for our South American adventure.
This is the only thing the white people eat is Skittles? Like, just try to trick them? Well, Eggy, we finished Enies Lobby. New arc starts very next chapter, so we need predictions. What's the next arc? Where are we going? Because, I mean, right now we're stranded in the middle of the ocean. They're getting on the Galley Law ship. They don't have a ship themselves. How can there be a new arc? They can't leave.
I have to imagine that we're going to probably, at least the next volume, we're going to need to go back, get something situated as far as that goes.
Go back where?
To Water 7.
Eggy's prediction is the next arc is Return to Water 7?
Well, I think we're gonna need that transitional volume at least. I don't think it's gonna be. Let's see here. What could I think of for the next arc?
Well, I mean, Eggy, we don't need to continue. The prediction is the next arc is Return to Water 7. I think you should just lock that one in.
Well, let's see. What else do we have? What other unfinished business do we have at Water 7 though, besides for
getting a ship?
Getting a ship, yeah. Because I mean, it could be the next chapter could just be like, here's the ship, and they might be on a ship and moving somewhere else by the next chapter. To be honest.
Well, I'm glad you asked this because actually, there's something we did not cover, and that's when we have the Mary's funeral. Usopp is back in the Sniper King disguise and does not expose himself to Luffy and Chopper. I guess even after their emotional moment where Usopp saved all their lives by threatening Lucci, and he encouraged Luffy. Somehow now he's back to coward mode and he can't face his friend, even though surely they've got to be over the fight they had 8 volumes ago by now. So maybe that still needs to be resolved. Like, is Usopp a member of this crew still? Do we think Usopp's going to go off on his own for a bit? What's the Usopp prediction?
I would predict that it's not going to be much more than... I think he's going to be rejoining with the crew. I mean, after everything they've been through, I think it would be difficult for me to think that he would still be ready to split off from them for now. Like, I think that they really showed that they all rely on each other and they are all a very necessary functioning unit together.
And maybe we also need somebody else to join the crew. You might have some good guesses as to who that might be.
Well, I mean...
is it Polly's finally gonna rope on up?
I feel like Polly could just go back to... he's a shipwright. He knows what he's doing. Why would he... the rest of the shipwrights, they might need him more now than ever back in Water 7 because the rest of them we're all secret agents that have been defeated now. They're not going to be there anymore, so they need somebody to work on the ships. So I would feel like he's just going to So I guess for that, there's got to be some return to Water 7. I feel like there's got to be some more closure there. So that could be something also, because where are they going to? They might need some correspondence. They might need to know, oh, okay, we just got started on the world government. We might have a lot of problems coming our way as soon as possible. So we might need to go to Water 7 to kind of get that correspondence about what we should be doing, or what are they looking for? Where is there? Are they sending people here, there, the third place? I think that's going to play into at least where the next arc develops, is them getting their way out of the world government's target until they could figure how they're going to handle that, or how they're going to sort of equip themselves for this upcoming series of events that they're going to have to tangle with if they're considered to be the number one world government enemy.
Yeah, will their bounties dramatically increase now that they've all declared war on the government?
I'm going to say yes, and I think finally, our non-bountied friends, although maybe not, I mean, are they going to know it was Usopp? Is Sniper King going to be the one that's got the bounty?
Is he?
That could be something. Maybe they're going to go back to Water 7, correspondence. Okay, the bounties are out. Sniper King's got the billion berry bounty or whatever.
Would that be hilarious if Sniper King had a higher bounty than Luffy?
He shot the keys, he was a real pain in the behind, and maybe Spandam's going to have a special A-log hard-on for going against Sniper King. Maybe that's where we're going to see the Sniper King outfit go away, because if he's doing it on account of being a bit cowardly about the situation, maybe that's going to be also the reason why he wants to discard that disguise.
Yeah, if it's the most wanted man of all time, gotta
Right.
stop being this guy. Something that just popped into my mind for no reason. Somebody asked if Usopp's a good sniper because his nose works like an iron sight. And I was like, holy shit. Like, this goofy design actually has function. That's insane.
That seems legit to me. I mean,
yeah, it has to be. What else? That makes so much sense.
Because otherwise it would be, okay, let's see, I'm thinking of Usopp. Oh yeah, okay. Yep, scientific check. It's my middle knuckle is a real good iron sight right now.
Yeah. Anything else? Any other random predictions for what is to come?
Well, I'm feeling like a straw hat because, they're about to be running away from the government, and, I was having a duck, dodge, and dip. Story of my life. So I think everything I've said, return to Water 7, receive correspondence, make some adjustments, get their ship situation in order, move on. I wouldn't even be sure where the next place they're going to go is, because I feel like they're going to be moving evasively. So are they going to want to necessarily bunker down on another inhabited location real quick if they've got a lot of heat on them? I'm not sure. They might be looking for maybe another, not Logtown. What was the one where Blackbeard was at, and the one that was by Jaya? What was the town there? I forgot.
Mocktown.
Something like that, where it's a known hive of villainy, perhaps, if they've got another Mocktown type of place coming up to where they're not going to necessarily be turned over right away for being there. Maybe something like that could be a place to go. But otherwise, I don't think they're going to want to have a lot of eyes on them. Or maybe they might even want to implement some other kinds of disguises, Sniper King-esque, to sort of conceal whatever heat they might have on them. But just spitballing a little bit, but I'm feeling like what I'm saying, it's going to be somewhere in that ballpark. I'm kind of feeling it out a little bit.
Okay, I'm pretty excited for the next volume because there's a lot of faces worth seeing. I'll say that, and then especially the volume after next. So 46. I don't think this counts as a spoiler. I'll warn you, Eggy. Perhaps your real life greatest enemy, and not somebody you despise, but perhaps somebody who despises you, and perhaps now me as well. Maybe they get name dropped in One Piece, and maybe it's the fucking funniest shit of all time that his name is in there. But we'll have to wait a couple weeks for that one. What if the Bermuda Triangle was named after Florian Himsel? That's my question.
The ball frogged triangle, perhaps?
I don't know what Oda was cooking, but it's delicious. Hey, we did it, folks. We finished Enies Lobby. A lot of people say, in the grand scheme of One Piece, this is top 3 arcs of all time. So, we might have just hit another peak, like back at Arlong Park.
Well, I like anything that is anti-government sentiment, so, I'd have to say just for what speaks to my heart and soul as a man and as a pirate myself when it comes to microtorrent.com, I'm feeling it 100%.
Eggy, there's something we forgot. Something so important, and we're doing it right now. Only the real fans will hear this one. In the SBS, do you remember this, Eggy? Somebody asked, are you ever going to draw Luffy's father? He says, I already drew him, and he'll be in the next volume. Once again, Oda, is this the second time this has ever happened? He's spoiling what he's going to put in the next volume, Eggy. This was in chapter 424. So he's already drawn Luffy's dad and confirms we will see him next week. Did you miss that?
I did. I did notice in SBS when it said we ever wear women's clothing or whatever.
Yeah, he was pissed. No! He was disgusted at the thought of being, I guess, a cross-dresser. But he's already drawn Luffy's dad. Does that mean we've seen him in the story before, in the past, Eggy?
I don't know if there was attention drawn to him. No, I got stuck on this SBS with the whole, sushi stuff, because, I don't know, for some reason, I just locked onto that, and I was, took my full attention. I don't think I started the next chapter for 5 minutes because I was just sitting here thinking about double. I was like, how would I even know Toro and Toro? I guess I'd have to read it untranslated and also know Japanese. I don't know. For some reason, I got stuck on that for a few minutes. Then I just moved on without reading anything else. So, well played, Oda. You know what? Hidden in plain sight. I was so focused on food attacks that weren't from Sanji that I just completely missed that. So, well, now.
Do you have any predictions here? Luffy's dad, what the hell? What kind of character is he going to be? And what's he going to be doing in the next volume?
Well, I'm going to say we have potential, or that's a whole door opening right now, because, so I'm thinking, okay, we got to go back to Water 7. We got to do all that stuff I was saying. But where's the next step from there? Evasive, I'm thinking. We got to have to start playing a little defense with the world government. Maybe they're pulling up at Mock Town 2, Mock Locktown, Mock Log, and all of a sudden, maybe there's Papa Luffy's going to be right there to take him in, shelter him, just like, call him Luffy Frank in World War II. You got to hide him in the attic a little bit. The world government's popping around.
You think Luffy's dad would protect him? Could he be an enemy? Because, Luffy, if Luffy just declared war on the world government and then his dad shows up the very next volume, could his dad be a vice admiral who's pissed?
It's possible, if I'm not familiar with who his father is. It certainly could be. That's not where my mind would go to immediately, but...
We like to evaluate all kinds of ideas, so...
Yeah, but if he'd already been drawn in before, he says he already drew him, could it have been he drew him in a flashback and we didn't notice? There could have been a lot of places he could have been drawn in. It wasn't, the statement he's giving us is not necessarily placing him in one place or the other, or one side or the other.
Yeah,
so
my interpretation of it is I've already drawn him in the story before, and I just did not tell you. So, go through the last 420 chapters and figure out which random character was Luffy's dad.
Well, and considering that we were already in Mocktown, you know what? Maybe that could be he was Mocktown. He's doing his piracy thing. He's kind of whatever. Maybe whatever he's doing. Maybe he's not on the level. Maybe he got on his vessel. He went this way. Now they're on their vessel. They're going this way, and they reconvene at some. This is just where my mind's going with it. My wheels are spinning because they need this evasiveness. They need a place that's going to not be too dangerous for them to be in their current condition. And maybe if he was drawn in the background, in Mocktown we had the big huge spread of all the pirates in the bar and all that stuff. There was so many things displayed. There could have been any sort of thing. If I go back and look at that, there could be something that is a little clue or a little hint.
Luffy's only 17. How old is Blackbeard? Could he be Luffy's dad? Would that be the greatest twist of all time?
He looks old enough, I'll say that much.
Yeah. And they both love food and, whatever. They had things in common and things that were exactly opposite.
And I think there some D in there. I can't remember if we got a...
Yeah. I think Blackbeard was a D, Marshall D. Teach. But they have different last names, though. Monkey D. Luffy, so maybe that doesn't work.
Maybe, if he's... I'm open to name changes. I'm open to, there could be things being... pirates, they're a deceptive kind. They're deceptive, they gotta do what they gotta do to survive by any means necessary. So maybe it's Marshall D. Teach Luffy, or I don't know.
Or Monkey. we see Luffy as a child. Like he's like 6 years old, living in this village with the cows and the windmill, and he looks up to Shanks as his father figure, really. So whoever Luffy's dad is he like just a bum shit dad? Like he abandoned Luffy, evidently. We never see him with any parents.
Well, we have like Yasop. Oh, he's he
abandoned Usopp. Yeah,
he's not like a
he's a terrible father. I mean, I think by definition, if you've never met your son, you're probably a terrible father.
Well, I think with Yasop also just the fact that he was not very far away, and he just...
he's 2 islands over! Fucking asshole!
So it could be kind of one of those situations like, hey, you know what? I didn't really mean to abandon you, son, but, hi-ho, a pirate's life for me.
Yeah, if we are going to have Luffy meeting his dad, I would like to see him just like punch him in the face immediately and then say, oh, hey, what's up, Pops? Is that all, Eggy? Should we finally wrap this up since we have another podcast in 15 minutes?
It's probably a good idea. Yeah, I think we got our predictions laid to an extent. Had a good time breaking down the best volume in a while, densely packed with greatness, and it was a beautiful thing.
And Chimney said, cool, you're a mermaid. I thought it was strange you had fins and scales.
All we could see was that she just looked kind of ugly, and you know what? I judge what's on the inside, so Kokoro.
I've seen some old women with scales before. They just don't shower. They don't bathe. It's disgusting. You know what? Hey, if you want to join the Measly crew, become a member of the Mumkey D. Jones YouTube channel, $3 a month. You can get the episodes 15 days early, except for next week when it's going to be 13 days early. And you're going to join the Discord, and we talk about the new chapters as they come out in the spoiler chat. Eggy has no idea that we're also making fun of him in there. He'll never know because he can't click that tab. So just keep the trolling coming.
When at Incel Coworker is tagging me in the One Piece chat in the your Simi and Jimmy Discord server and saying you're gonna buy the One Piece Legos. That didn't look like spoilers. It looked like just straw Legos that I was familiar with.
The Lego set is based on the Netflix show, so I have no desire to. I mean, I don't like Legos to begin with, but I don't want merchandise based off of this shitty live action. At least
this is the only merchandise I need right here.
Yeah.
Shout out to my
Dr. Eggman. That's right. You know what? We've said enough words. One Piece, people.